Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi amma ba'd. So inshallah we will come to Surah Ikhlas inshallah, and in the last ayah walam yakullahu kufuwan ahad, yakun is used. So I just thought inshallah let's cover this concept of kana, because obviously yakun is from the kana family. Okay, so let's inshallah cover this concept of kana, because this will be helpful inshallah for our future discussions and analysis as well. So again, as we all know that our default rule is inshallah you just stay please muted. Whenever you have any question, unmute yourself and inshallah you can ask your questions. So this will be inshallah our by default process. So now, as you can see on the screen, inshallah today we will cover this concept of kana, use of kana in sentences. We will see these three subtopics. Number one is when kana added to a nominal sentence. Nominal means jumla ismiya. And number two, when kana enters on fi'l mudare. And number three, what are the labels of the sentence when kana is used in a sentence. Let's look at them one by one. So first of all, when kana is added to a nominal sentence. So as you can see on the screen, a normal nominal sentence gives the meanings of present tense, which means is, am, are. Okay, but when kana is added in the start, it goes into past tense. Example, huwa alimun. Huwa is the mubtada, alimun is the khabar. He is a scholar. Now let's add kana. Kana aliman. You might have noticed one thing, that huwa has disappeared. Inshallah I will come back to this huwa, why huwa disappeared. But for now, kana aliman. He was a scholar. You see the change? He is a scholar. Huwa alimun. Kana aliman. He was a scholar. So notice one major change. That alimun was normal khabar in rafa status, but khabar of kana is always in nasab status. That's why alimun has changed to aliman. Clear? Is this point clear, brothers? Okay. Now, how about disappearing of huwa? Inshallah I will come back to this one on the next slides. For now, I only want to show this point, this concept, that how kana changed the present tense into past tense. Huwa alimun, he is a scholar. Kana aliman, he was a scholar. Clear? Now let's move on. And by the way, this note number one was that when kana added the khabar. This thing, I'm still making this slide as well. So when kana added, the khabar becomes nasab. And second point which still needs to be added is that in the case of sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kana does not play the role of changing the meaning into, for example, kana Allahu ghafuran rahiman. Grammatically speaking, kana has changed the khabar into ghafuran rahiman in nasab. But in terms of meaning, it is still in the present tense. We cannot say that Allah was Ghafoor and Rahim. Allah was, Allah is, and Allah will be. So this exception should be in your mind, that by default, job of kana is when kana enters on jumla ismiya, it changes the meaning into past tense. But exception is when it will be added with the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is very common in the Quran. It will play the grammatical role, which means it will change the khabar into nasab, as kana Allahu ghafuran rahiman. Khabar has gone into nasab, but it does not give the meanings of the past. It covers still present. Allah is still and Allah will be. So you need to keep this in mind. And by the just a side point, this is one of the proofs the scholars of Arabic language, they present that Quran is Allah's speech. Why? In the corpus of ahadith, kana is used in its normal sense. Why? It's changing the meaning of present to past. It is the exception only in the Quran, which means when Prophet ﷺ used to give his own speech, he never used kana to make present. But when you read the Quran, Allah has used the kana for present, which means that Quran and Hadith is not the speech of one person. That's the key point here. This is one of the proof. Obviously, if it was his speech, then he would use the kana on the same pattern as Arab used to use, and till this day they use. It is Quran has de-scoped kana, and it is only in the Quranic usage. In the normal language, kana gives the meaning of was and were. Any questions so far, brothers? Okay, let's move on. When kana enters on fail mudare, first we discussed that kana entering on fail on jumla ismiya, and now when kana enters on fail mudare, we all know that mudare is the present and future tense. But let's see what kana does. Fail mudare presents present and future tense, but when kana enters on fail mudare, it changes the meanings to past perfect continuous tense, which means had been or sometimes used to. So whenever you see that kana has entered on mudare, now you translate it as had been or used to. Examples as on the screen. Before kana, yazlimuna anfusahum, they wrong their own souls. Kanu yazlimuna anfusahum. Okay? They used to wrong their own soul, or they had been wronging their own souls. One point. Second point, look at the form of kana. Because yazlimuna was plural, so you use the plural form of kana, which is kanu, kana, kana, kanu, kanat, kanata, kunna, kunta, kuntuma, kuntum, kunti, kuntuma, kuntunna, kuntu, kunna. As you can see on this slide. Look at the slide. This is the whole Madi chart for kana. Even though we know if kana is Madi, it goes like the Madi chart, but this is the chart. Inshallah, I will share this with you inshallah in today's lesson, so you can go through it. Okay, now let's go back to the same thing again. Yakutuluna nabiyyin, they kill the prophets. Kanu yakutuluna nabiyyin, they used to kill the prophet, or they had been killing the prophet. You see how kana is changing the meanings of mudare. Any question so far from anybody?
So the meaning is dependent on the type of sentences it appears.
Excellent, yes. If enters on jumla ismiya, then was and were. If enters on mudare, then had been or used to. Okay, let's move on. I just mentioned this slide to you that this is the Madi chart for kana, and this is the mudare version of kana. Yakunu, yakunani, yakununa, takunu, takunani, yakunna, takunu, takunani, takununa, takunina, takunani, takunna, akunu, nakunu. And let me give you a good news now. Just spend inshallah 10-15 minutes to memorize these two kana charts. Kana and its different forms appear in the Quran thousands of times. Which means that these two charts, spending of 10, 20, 15 minutes, will going to give you thousands of words of vocabulary. Inshallah, biznillahi ta'ala. Okay? And as I put the note as well, command form is kun. Quran says kun fayakun. Kunu kiradatan khasi'in. Kunu for the plural command. And kun singular command. When you command to one person, kun, or one object. If you command to plural, kunu, like Allah said to Bani Israel, kunu kiradatan khasi'in, become like the humiliated monkeys when they violated the Sabbath. So, for every fail, please pay attention. You need to remember these three forms of fail. What is the Madi form, what is the Mudare form, and what is the command form. So, kana, yakunu, kun. Clear? Now, last inshallah point regarding this kana, labels of kana sentences. Labels of kana sentences are, first of all, in terms of label, remember this point. Kana and inna, their labels are same. Why? You remember in inna sentences, you get inna and then ism of inna, khabar of inna. Likewise, in the kana concept, you get kana, then ism of kana, khabar of kana. Clear? As you can see, but they differ as well. How do they differ? Number one, unlike inna, kana is a fi'l. You cannot have the conjugation of inna. Inna is just inna, it's a particle. But kana is fi'l, it's a fi'l naqis, but it's still a fi'l. What it means to be naqis, inshallah, it will come on its own time. But kana is a fi'l, but inna is a particle. One difference. Second difference is, ism of kana can be the hidden doer. As we know, every fi'l has a hidden doer, which means that ism of inna is always outside of inna. For example, inna Allaha ghafurur rahim. Allah is the ism of inna.
Yes.
Okay, if you say innahu ghafurur, still who is the ism of inna? So ism of inna is always outside of inna, either a clear ism or a pronoun. But the ism of kana can be inside of kana, which is the hidden pronoun. Okay, these are two main differences between, even though in terms of their programming they work the same way. Ism of kana, ism of inna, khabar of kana, khabar of inna. But in terms of their concept, that's how they differ. Okay, and last point, please pay attention. Please pay attention, everyone. In case of inna, ism of inna is nasab and khabar of inna is marfu, rafa. Kana is the opposite. Ism of kana is normal, rafa. Khabar of kana becomes jar. As for example, kana aliman. Is this point clear? Now, this is my tip for all of you. Never ever try to memorize two things which are opposite to each other. Always just memorize one thing. For example, you just remember inna. In case of inna, ism is nasab and khabar is rafa. Kana is the opposite. If you memorize both of them, you will mix up. So just remember inna concept. One more time. In the inna concept, ism of inna is always nasab and khabar of inna is rafa. Kana is the opposite. That's it.
Opposite as in
That the ism of kana is rafa and khabar of kana is nasab. That's what I mean by opposite. Okay, now look at the labels. Kana aliman. So kana is fail. Okay, now kana has inside he, because kana has inside he. So in this sentence, huwa is already hidden inside of kana. Okay, so huwa is the hidden pronoun of kana and it will serve as the ism of kana. Okay, and aliman is the khabar of kana. Now you got the point that huwa alimun and kana aliman. When I say kana aliman, huwa disappeared. Why? Because kana has built in huwa. Okay, now I'm going to take a pause here. Please, if there's anything not clear, go ahead and ask your questions.
so kana would have the same. It can have external doer in rafa condition.
Exactly.
Kana Allahu
Exactly.
Ghafurar Rahima.
Exactly. 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 Like any file, kana can have in hidden file, kana can have outside file. But inna always have outside.
Yeah.
Okay, I hope inshallah that there is no question and everything inshallah is clear. So now, Bismillah.
Like other fields, for kana, there will be only outside file for the first and the fourth. Same.
Excellent question. Excellent. Yes, you are right. You are right. Because kana is a fail, and the question is that outside file of kana can only come if kana and kanat, number 1 and number 4 in the chart.
Huwa and here.
Yes, huwa and hiya. You are right, Asif. Yeah, you are right. Asif bhai, you are right. Okay, any other question, brothers, regarding the concept of kana and what we discussed regarding kana? If you have any question, please, Bismillah, ask your questions. Okay, let's hope, inshallah, that it is all done. Now we can, inshallah, open up our next task for the day, and that is we're gonna, inshallah, complete our Suratul Ikhlas. Okay, so the first ayah, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Kul huwallahu ahad. We have completed this one. I don't want to spend time again, but please, if there's any question from any one of you, you can ask your question.
Brother, on that day actually there was a big problem with the video, so we couldn't upload the video. So actually I couldn't attend the class. I'm not sure if it is possible. Can you please?
Okay, inshallah we'll see, inshallah. Inshallah we'll see, inshallah. Inshallah we'll see. Inshallah we'll see, inshallah. Anybody has any question about the first ayah? I come back to that, inshallah. Okay, second ayah. Third ayah. Okay, let's do the fourth ayah first. Sorry?
What's the form of Yalid? In which form Yalid is? It's Yalid. Yalid. I know Yulad is basically in passive voice, but Yalid. Which
Okay.
form of the faith?
Okay, this one, Yalid, actually, it is the first cell of Mudare. Yalidu, because of lam, Yalidu has become Yalid.
All right. Okay.
Wayak. Okay, inshallah, let's complete, inshallah, ayah number 4, and then, inshallah, I will come back to the previous ayat as well, just to make sure we complete our task first, inshallah. I'll come back to that. Okay, this waw is a connector which we call harf ataf. Clear? It's just connecting the previous with the what is coming after the waw. Okay, lam. We all know that lam is one of those words which make the mudare majzoom. Now, as soon as you saw this lam, you are sure that whatever is coming after the lam is fail mudare majzoom. You don't need to worry about that anymore. And what is coming after the lam? Yakun. And today we have discussed the chart for kana yakunu. Okay. Now the question is, what is this yakun? For example, I know the whole, obviously it has to be something about the mudare chart. That's for sure. Why? Because let me show you again that slide. Yeah. As you can see that this is the whole mudare chart for yakunu. And obviously after lam you got some version of mudare. That's for sure. But let's see which one is it. First of all, it is starting with the ya. It can be either 1 or number 2 or number 3 or number 6. These are the only 4 which start with the ya. Is that right?
Yeah.
Secondly, it cannot be number 2 or number 3 or number
6.
Why? Because the reason is
Neither plural nor dual nor female.
excellent. Because number 6 does not change its form.
Yeah.
Number 6 remains as it is. So it would, if it was number 6, it should be yakunna. It would not change the form. So it cannot be number 6. What about number 2 and number 3? No, because they have a typical a, u. Though it cannot be them. It is only one possibility. It is number 1 in the chart. But then the question is, I have yakun. Now, inshallah, when we will, remember I said something yesterday that those fail which have alif, ya and waw in them. And alif, ya and waw are called haruf illat. When any fi'l has any of these letters inside of it, it belongs to a special category and it is dealt in some special way. For now, I am telling you that in this case, obviously, first of all, yakunu. When you make it majzoom, it becomes yakun. Is that right? Yakun, okay? Second point is that waw is dropped. Waw is dropped when you make it majzoom. Why? Same reason. They belong to a special category of fail, which we are not discussed yet, we don't know yet. I am telling you that actually yakun is the first one in its majzoom form. Yakunu becomes yakun. How it became, inshallah, one day I will have the class on this topic, but now we cannot go into that detail. But you can know by the method of elimination. What I mean by this, it cannot be number 2, it cannot be number 3, it cannot be number 6. The only other option is number 1. So it can only be number 1 under the elimination method as well. If you eliminate all the possibilities, you only got the first possibility. So for now, at this stage, I am telling you, inshallah, eventually you will know as well that yakun is actually the majzoom form of yakunu. Okay, now let's go back to the ayah again. So,
one dumb question. So, you said at that time, so we need to remove noon.
Yeah, for the normal afal, this is a special category of fail. Okay, yes, you are right. You are right. That's the rule normally. You are right. So, yakun is fail mudare majzoom, and we just discussed today. Whenever you got any word from the kana family, what do you need after that?
Ism of kana.
Ism of kana and khabar of kana. In this case, ism of yakun and khabar of yakun. Let's look for them first. Okay, we know that lam is those words. Lam is one of those words which make the mudare majzoom. The typical name for this is jawazim. Jawazim is the plural, jazm and jawazim. So lam is one of the jawazim. Jawazim means those words which make mudare majzoom.
Like harf jawazim.
Yes, you can say. So lam is the one of the jawazim, and yakun is the fail mudare majzoom. Is that right? Mudare majzoom. Okay, let's keep moving. What about lahu?
Ism of kana.
Lahu, Abdul Bari, lahu is jar majroor.
Oh, yes, lam and ha is 2 words.
Lahu is jar majroor, and jar majroor plays the role of muta'alliq.
Yeah.
So, because we are looking for the ism of kana and khabar of kana, so call it muta'alliq bil khabar. Okay, now let's keep moving. Kufuwan. Kufuwan. First question, what is it?
Ism.
Excellent, because of tanween. Second question, what is the status?
Oh, nasab.
Now, please pay attention. In a kana sentence, if you get ism in nasab status, what could be the label for this ism? Hassan?
Then
The ism of kana.
Khabar of kana. Remember, it's the kana aliman. Khabar of kana is always mansoob. So this kufuwan qualifies to be what? Khabar of kana. Let's keep moving. We got one more word. Ahadun. Ahadun. Wow. If somebody tells me about ahadun, I will be super impressed. Other than Muhammad Hassan. Hassan might have heard from me before.
Ism.
It is, I know it. What's the label?
The opposite of inna one. So
What is the label of ahadun?
Rafa, not,
so
It is the status, or yes, you are right, it is ism in rafa status, but my question is the label, as we gave the label to every word. The label,
would it be ism of kana?
Ism of yakun.
sorry?
Ism of yakun.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, because you remember we discussed that if you get kana version from number 1 and number 4, it can have outside. Okay, in this case, ahadun is replacing who? Huwa. Inside of yakun, there was a huwa ism of yakun. One more time. Inside of yakun, there was a huwa as ism of yakun. That has been replaced because of ahadun. So now ahadun will play the role of ism of kana. But being more precise, you can say ism of yakun or kana, no problem in that. It's same family basically. Now let's translate this one. Who will translate this one now?
I can try.
Yes, Brother Abdul Bari.
And
First go word by word.
wa is and, or rather. Lam is does not or not.
Did not.
Did not, but it will be in the present tense now because of the yakun.
Yeah. But normally lam mean did not.
Lam is did not.
Yeah.
Lam yakun meaning in the present tense, mudare, and we should translate as is not, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Lam yakun or like. Lahu. Walam yakun meaning that he is not, or he does not something. Lahu is for him. For him or there's nothing like unto him. Yes, unto him, for him. Kufuwan is like comparable. Something like that you can make two things comparable. It's like that.
Yeah, comparable.
So, and he is not comparable, or he is not like anything else. Ahadun, meaning, and the ahadun like uniquely one, right? Ahad is one, right?
Yes.
So he is the one who is not like anything.
Okay, it's a good try, Abdul Bari, good try. But first of all, when you're translating, replace the huwa inside of yakun with ahadun. Because now ahadun will play the role of doer. Okay? So, literally it is in the meaning of did not. Obviously, because when lam enters on mudare, lam change the meaning into did not. Okay? But if you translate like did not, it would not make any sense. Okay? That's why you're going to translate it just for sake of translation. Okay? In the present tense. So, no one is. Yakun mean he is. But now ahadun, no one is. Okay? No one is. And this lam is being no. Yakun mean is. Lam yakun is not. Okay? And then you put the ism of yakun. No one is. Okay, lahu, for him, kufuwan equal. No one is equal for him. One more time, yakun mean is. But because of lam,
Is not.
okay, is not. Literally did not, but for now is not. Okay, is not. And then inside of yakun, you have the ahadun. Okay, so ahadun means no one. Okay, no. Basically, aha means one basically. Okay, and lam is the no part. Okay, lam is the no part, and ahadun is the one part. Okay, no one is. Lahu, for him, kufuwan equal.
Or comparable.
Yeah, all comparable.
Or there is nothing like unto him.
Yeah, you can translate as you like. Fail amr. Why? Every fail has three forms. Kala is the madi version. Yakulu is the mudare version. And kul is the amr version. So kala, yakulu, kul. So kul is fail amr. That's first point. That kul is the fail, and more specifically it is fail amr. That's first point. Second point is every fail has a built-in pronoun which serve as the doer of that. Inside of kul, now please pay attention, because kul is fail amr. And in our fail amr chart, we only have two lines. line number 3 and line number 4. And kul is the first cell of line number 3, which means it has anta. So inside of kul, you have a anta as the file. File which is anta. And yesterday we gave this hidden file a name, Damir Mustatar, from Satar. Okay, Damir means pronoun and Mustatar means hidden. These built-in pronouns of the af'al or the fail is called Damir Mustatar. Okay, kul is done. Now let's move on. If you say to someone, kul, say, he will ask you, what should I say? Is that right? And we discussed the inside of a jumla failure. The information of what, why, where, how and when is called maf'ul. Which means that now you need a maf'ul actually. Because if you say to someone, say, the question is, what should I say? Is that right, brother? So, which means that now you're gonna get something about the maf'ul. But let's see in which form you get it. Normally, we know maf'ul is in two forms. A clear ism in nasab status or a pronoun attached to the fail. This is the normal pattern of maf'ul. One more time. Maf'ul has two patterns. Number one, a clear ism in nasab status. And number two, a pronoun attached with the fail. Let's see what we have here. Now, huwa. Now, we all know that huwa is what? Huwa is an independent pronoun. And as soon as you see independent pronoun, it starts a jumla ismiya. Which means that with huwa, a new sentence is starting. So huwa will become the mubtada. I call it MB. Allahu. Wait a second. After huwa, you need a khabar. Is that right? But Allahu, if you say he, Allah, you still did not give any information. It is another cluster now. Please be with me. It's very interesting thing now. Huwa is the mubtada. Allahu ahadun. Allahu ahadun is itself a complete sentence. Allah is mubtada and ahadun is the khabar. Which means that for this huwa, this Allahu ahadun is a complete sentence as a khabar of this huwa. So huwa is the mubtada, Allahu ahadun is the khabar. Any question so far, brother? Is it clear? Look at the cluster now. This is the main thing here. In the outer picture, huwa mubtada and Allahu ahadun is the khabar. Inside Allahu ahadun, Allahu is what? Mubtada and ahadun is what? Khabar. That is how this cluster is made. Now let's translate it. Kul, say, huwa, he. After huwa, you're gonna place a comma. Why? Because you get a complete sentence khabar. Whenever, please pay attention, whenever you get a complete sentence khabar, after mubtada, you put a comma. Okay? So, kul, say, huwa, he, and then comma, and then Allah is one. Say, he, comma, Allah is one. And look at the emphasis. First of all, Allah, huwa, and then Allah, both are referring to who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So jumla is becoming more emphatic. It could have been simply kul, Allahu ahadun. Simple, or kul, huwa ahadun. But you added two mubtada. Is that right, brother Abdul Bari? In this way, jumla has become emphatic. And second point, please pay attention. We were looking for the maf'ul. Is that right? But we got a jumla ismiya. What we are learning is that this jumla ismiya is serving the role of maf'ul. This is something new we learned today, inshallah. That sometime, because normally maf'ul is what? Maf'ul is a one word in nasab status, or a pronoun attached to the fail. But sometimes, as in this case, the whole sentence plays the role of maf'ul. And at this stage, we give it a fancy name. And what is the fancy name? fi mahalli nasab. Mahal mean place and nasab mean, we all know nasab is the place of the maf'ul. So this huwallahu ahadun will be called jumlatul ismiya fi mahalli nasab. That is a complete understanding of this for so far. Let's move on. Allahu as-samad. Now please pay attention here. We know something technically as the students, that by default mubtada is always proper and khabar is common. That's the default position. If we think from this angle, okay, Allahu can become mubtada, it is proper, but as-samad, we cannot make it khabar. But please pay attention. There are exceptions to this rule as well, because there is no such rule without the exceptions. In this case, if you consult any translation, please pay attention. They translate it like Mawsuf Sifa, which means Allah the eternal, or Allah the self-sufficient. Allah means Allah and As-Samad means self-sufficient or eternal. So Allah the eternal, Allah the self-sufficient. And you all know, if they treat Allah Samad as Jumla Ismiya, then they should translate it as Allah is self-sufficient. But none of them is doing this. Which means they are acknowledging that technically speaking, Allah As-Samad is not playing the role of complete Jumla Ismiya. It is a Mawsuf Sifa construction. But when they give the labels, I consulted 5-6 different books of Arab, of Arab. All of them say Allah is Mubtada and As-Samad is the Khabar. But when they translate it, they realize this problem. And then they do not translate it like Jumla Ismiya. Now, I try to think of some reasons. One of the reasons I came across, I may be wrong once again, I'm just a student. I thought that if they say that Allah, As-Samad, they are Mawsuf Sifa, they cannot link this one back to anything. Because Mawsuf Sifa they should link it back to something. And they cannot link it back to anything. So maybe for this problem, they call Allah Samad as an other. For example, they call this one Allah as the Mubtada for this next sentence, and As-Samad as the Khabar. But when they translate it like Mawsuf Sifa. Which means, please pay attention, they say Allah is one, and then they say after this, Allah the eternal, or Allah the self-sufficient, or Allah the eternal refuge. Different words in them. But I think you can see my point, all of you. Okay? Which means, if you go by this logic, that Allah is the Mubtada and Samad is the Khabar, you got a second Jumla Ismiya, is that right? Is that right, brothers? Before this you got Huwa Allahu Ahadun, first Jumla Ismiya, which means in this case, you got two maf'ul actually. Say, what to say? Say Allah is one, and also say Allah is self-sufficient. So these two sentences, both of them are playing the role of maf'ul. Like Allah is saying, say, okay, what to say? Say Allah, He is one, and also say that Allah is self-sufficient.
Brother, here Allahu Ahadun, but there is not Allahu Samadun.
Brother, I have just explained that point in last 10 minutes, that technically speaking it should be Allahu Samadun. Okay? But they consider it in terms of labels. They still call As-Samad as Khabar, but they do not translate it as. Why? If they translate it as you said, and I agree with you, they should say Allah is self-sufficient. But they say Allah the self-sufficient, which is a Mawsuf Sifa construction. So they basically combine these two things. In terms of grammatical labeling, they call it Jumla Ismiya. In terms of translation, they treat like Mawsuf Sifa. Is it clear now? Let's move on. Lam, we all know, we just discussed, Lam is a Jawazim, and Yalid is the Fail Mudari Majzoom. Now, actual word was Yalidu. Because of Lam it become Yalid. Now Lam mean did not. Yalid mean to give birth. Okay? He did not give birth basically to anyone. Okay? Wow. What is wow? Harf ataf or connector. Lam, again lam. Yulad. We discussed about this yulad point, that actually Yalid and Yulad, both of them are number 1 in Fail Mudare chart. But you may be thinking, if Yalidu is the right word, then what about the Yuladu? Because it was actually Yuladu. Because of Lam, it became Yulad. Now, we discussed this last time, that if Mudare comes as normal, as we know Mudare, it comes as Yalidu or Yadribu. Okay? If it becomes as passive, and we know the concept of passive. Passive means when you do not know the doer. Okay? As in English, you have the concept of active voice and passive voice. Right, brother? Active voice means the normal sentence. And passive voice means that you change the active into such. For example, if I say, he sent down the Quran, it's an active sentence. If I say, Quran was sent down, you see the difference? Even though I'm saying the same thing. He sent down Quran. Quran was sent down. In both of these examples, you can see that it's about Quran coming down. But he sent down Quran is the normal active speech, because you know the doer. If you do not know the doer, it is called passive. The Arabic word for passive is, I write it here, majhul. Mean majhul. Majhul mean passive, and passive mean when you do not know the doer. Inshallah, we will discuss the concept of active and passive in detail. For now, I'm just going very brief that Yalid, this first Yalid, this one Yalid, and this one Yulad, both of them are number 1 in Mudare chart. The difference is Yalid is the normal active speech, and when you put Dhamma in the start of Mudare, it becomes passive speech. And now you may be thinking, what about this vow? Inshallah, we'll discuss this one. But for now, Yalid and Yalidu, normal speech. Yuladu, majhul or passive speech. So, Lam Yalid, he did not give birth to anyone. Walam Yulad, and he was not given birth. Given birth by who? We don't know. That's why it is bad. First part is Lam Yalid. He did not give birth. You know the doer. He was not given birth. You don't know the doer. So that's the difference between Yalid and Yulad. And secondly, Yalid is Lam Yalid is connected with who? Lam Yulad. How? Because of this vow. This vow is connecting this Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad. Is that right? And this next vow, this one, is connecting this next sentence with the previous one, which means this whole thing is actually one. You notice this thing? You actually have only 3 sentences. Allahu Ahadun, Allahu Samadun, and next whole thing is one bucket. Because the vow in 3rd ayah is connecting both of them, and then vow in the start of 4th ayah is connecting the 4th ayah with the 3rd ayah. In this way, 3rd and 4th ayah is a one cluster. So you actually got 3 kalimat, if you like. That Allah is one, Allah is Samad, and then a long sentence, Allah did not give birth to anyone, nor was he given birth, and there is no one equal to him. Even though on their own they are sentences, but they are making a big cluster through vow. In this way we are learning the role of vow as well. It was just like a side point. Even though we already analyzed all of them on their own. But as a student you should know that how they are joined together as well. Clear? So inshallah, with this we end because time is very short. But inshallah, bismillahi ta'ala, tomorrow you still can ask any of the questions about Surah Ikhlas inshallah, and then we'll move on to Surah Al-Falaq, and inshallah we'll start our part of vocabulary as well. Jazakumullahu khair, barakallahu fi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.